Mixing with Mike plugin of the week comes from Kit Plugins. It's the A67. This is a custom modified Altec 1567A tube mix preamplifier. Is a rack-mounted piece of gear that was originally designed for radio stations. Norman Petty had it modified for his recording studio, which I believe was a converted grocery store in Clovis, New Mexico, where he recorded the likes of Buddy Holly, Roy Orbison, and created what was known as the Clovis Sound. And so what we have here is an emulation of that basic piece of gear with one added little thing that actually makes it very usable, adds like a lot of character to it. And what you can get from it is something that will give you an interesting tonal character that you can add to your existing productions. It doesn't mean that you have to, have a rock or a rockabilly song, but you could take any existing sound. And what I've done here is I've taken a production here, actually a reggae song, and I wanted to see how much I could kind of modify the character of it, give it a little bit more depth, a little bit more personality from the original mix. And I think in that sense, that's exactly why you would buy a plugin like this. So let's take a look at it. It starts with the input stage. So the input is basically a preamp stage, but essentially what you're getting from it is a little bit of gain, but mostly what you're getting is a bit of saturation or tube saturation. So you drive this for your tube saturation, and you can balance the output for balancing the gain for unity. You have a wet-dry control for mix. You just, if you want some of it or if you want all of it. On the examples here, I've kept everything at 100% wet just to kind of show you what it can do. And then you have a basic tone block, bass and treble control. That was part of the original unit, and it gives you plus minus 10 dB. There are no frequencies that are listed, so I'm not exactly sure what the cut frequency is, but it more or less gives you a pretty smooth musical sort of bass treble kind of control over everything. And then this is something that Kit added in here, which is a mid-range EQ, which goes from 200 hertz all the way up to 2.5K, which is really great because it allows you to kind of add like a little tonal lane for different sounds. Whereas you, like as a way of kind of stacking sounds, where you can give, push into a little bit of a lower tonal character for some sounds, a brighter one for others, and sort of stack them a bit vertically. So that's like a very nice option, and I'll show you that on the individual instruments as I've set it up. Treble control, all right, here's your frequency control for that. And then you have a high-pass, low-pass filter. This is basically something that emulates more or less like what a Pultec would do. I assume they're HLF3C, but it gives you, sweepable frequencies from 20 hertz up to 1K and from 20K down to 4K. So you have a pretty good range of control there to shape sounds as well. And then there's a little hum here in case you want that old vintage kind of hiss or hum or whatever you get from tubes and all of that sort of stuff. So let's have a quick listen, and just so you can get a sense overall of what I'm talking about, what it can do, and then we can poke around with some of the individual settings here. Here we go.
What's the deal with your actions? I can't buy what you're selling me. Sick of all your contradictions. Is this happening? Trying to find my own reality, 'cause my ideas are free. And the way that you've been acting seems like a one-way street. Point your energy with your lack of sympathy. Tell me how can you walk free? Your guilty way washed up on me. Tell me how can you walk free? Your guilty way washed down on me.
So you can hear the kind of warmth and depth that's added to the sound from this. It warms up things a bit on the top, but I could certainly compensate for that by kind of pushing into the treble control. Or even if the other sounds that you're working with, you could push into frequencies with other EQs, and then this will kind of help to kind of glue a little bit of this character together. Now, I didn't modify anything else about the settings of the mix. I have the settings set up on some bus returns for some of the individual instrument groupings. Laid out a couple things here, for some guitar tracks, just to kind of, because there were two different guitar tracks, I couldn't use one EQ there, and just basically shape something pretty quickly. And I think it adds like a bit more personality or interesting character to the song. So I thought it was worth reviewing and kind of taking a little bit of a deeper dive on it. So let's just kind of go over just some of the basic controls with the mix. So I just have this on the mix bus. I'll just go here. These are the just sort of default settings that kind of come up, automatically give you boosts at high frequencies, a mid-range boost, and a low frequency boost. So that's the way it just kind of starts up. The high pass, low pass is off, and there's a little bit of saturation. If you have this at off setting, then you get no saturation from the tube input stage. Well, let's just kind of go over that a little bit. I'm going to back off the output just here a little bit and then just kind of show you what it sounds like if I just drive it.
What's the deal with your actions? I can't buy what you're selling me. Sick of all your contradictions. Is this happening? Trying to find my own reality, 'cause my ideas are free. And the way that you've been acting seems like a one-way street.
So it gives you a range of, gritty distortion if you want to push into it that way. And then obviously you could kind of mix that in. That can work really well with different sounds, bass sounds, anything you need a little bit more grit on. And then you have the wet dry control as a way of kind of balancing the amount of that you want in. On the low end and high end, let's just sort of take a look at what the tonal character is of the bass and treble control, and then we'll focus on the mid-range EQ.
What's the deal with your actions? I can't buy what you're selling me. Sick of all your contradictions. Is this happening? Trying to find my own reality, 'cause my ideas are free. And the way that you've been acting seems like a one-way street. Don't you point your energy with your lack of sympathy. Tell me how can you walk free? Your guilty ways washed up on me. Tell me how can you walk free? Your guilty ways washed up on me.
So you can hear a bit of the resonant filter shaping here and some of the tonal character. The mid-range EQ is really great because it seems to maintain the characteristics of the plugin, so it's not like taking you off in some other direction outside of the vintage emulation itself, right? It seems to really fit perfectly, as do the high pass and low pass filter. It all seems to work together well. Let's kind of poke around a little bit just to show what you can kind of do with some of the individual sounds. I'll put this back to its normal setting here. Just for the bass, we could play around with this a little bit. Hold on, I can right click there. Oh, maybe I need to. Okay, there we go. right? So you hear how much range of movement you have, and it's not like um, it's not a bad thing to kind of push in pretty aggressively into some of these tone shaping tools here. Hold on one second here. Got a right click. It's different from a control click in this case.
What's the deal with your actions? I can't buy what you're selling me. Sick of all your contradictions. Is this happening? Trying to find my own reality, 'cause my ideas are free. And the way that you've been acting seems like a one-way street. Don't you point your energy with your lack of sympathy. Tell me how can you walk free? Your guilty ways washed up on me. Tell me how can you walk free? Your guilty ways washed up on me.
Maybe got a little happy with the saturation there on that one, on that guitar part. But you could hear how you can really kind of dig in and get like more presence and body and fullness and richness and personality. There's a lot of options here with this as you start to really play around and dig into it, just to draw some, just a bit of character out of something. As far as capturing the Clovis sound, again, maybe with the right production and all of that, and if that's something that you're into or follow, then this is certainly a good guiding path to that. If the recordings and the production sort of match up. But otherwise, a great tonal shaping tool just for bringing personality into any kind of track, or mixed, give it a vintage character, give it kind of a unique presence or warmth. Really cool one. Kit has come out with a lot of great plugins of late, and this is no exception. Hopefully there's more stuff coming from Norman Petty Recording Studios. I'm not sure if this is the first of several or many, but I guess we'll see. Definitely worth checking out. Plugin of the week, Kit Plugins, the MP A67.